What's going on, everyone? So Jarred Vanderbilt has been steadily in the lab, even in Japan, working hard with Rui Hachimura and Phil Handy. He's been working on his corner three and just his overall skill set throughout this entire offseason. Since the Lakers picked up his option, he just immediately was in the gym, and it was great to see. We've seen a lot of photos of him just in workouts, particularly working on that three. If he can just get a serviceable three, not saying he has to shoot the lights out, shoot 40% or anything like that. Obviously, if that's a possibility, that would be great, right? With his level of defense, if he can just be a 37 to 40% three-point shooter, good luck. Absolutely good luck. But if he could just get to like 35, 36%, around league average to where teams really have to challenge Jarred Vanderbilt, that would be significant, right? That would be a noticeable change in impact in general. Also, questions of like, does he start or not? I think with the starting unit of D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron, and AD, I think Vando actually makes the most sense, especially if he can get that corner three. But time will tell. We'll see what happens in training camp and what Darvin Ham's final decision is with the roster. One of the big things, though, that was put out there about Jarred Vanderbilt was that he grew 2 inches. Now, he, in this image you see on screen, looks like he's put on some muscle, right? He definitely looks like he's been working out and working out hard. But the 2-inch thing, I've seen a lot of people kind of, question, is he really 2 inches? Pause. But they asked, hey, like, I don't really know if that's the case, 24 years old, right? And it's rare, obviously. I mean, it really is. It's not something that is super common, but with athletes and the stretches and exercises and all kinds of stuff that they're doing, it's not like that far-fetched to realize that, like, hey, this guy might have grown another inch or two. But it looks like we have proof. Now, here is an image of Jarred Vanderbilt and Rui Hachimura standing next to each other. Now, Jarred Vanderbilt is slightly in front of Rui, right? But even you look at this, it's a nice comparison, right? Rui Hachimura is 6'8", so Jarred Vanderbilt in this looks at least the same height or in that area, which, Jarred Vanderbilt, we want him 6'9", 6'10", right? He's supposed to be bigger. Let's see him be bigger, right? Because if he is 6'10" now, like Phil Handy has been talking about and has been mentioning, then he would be at least 2 inches taller than Rui Hachimura. But even in this image, you can clearly see sort of the muscle on Jarred Vanderbilt, which is nice to see. Rui Hachimura is looking strong as well too, but he's always been, a stocky, well-built guy. And then Vanderbilt, his long lengthiness, it's good to see, his muscles popping out and looks like a guy that's ready to lock down some people. Again, good luck. But here's the photo that really proves, at least in my opinion, proves that Jarred Vanderbilt actually grew. And this is them standing side by side. So you have them in this picture. Jarred Vanderbilt has his head tilted back, and he still is clearly taller than Rui Hachimura, right? He is. He's clearly taller than Rui Hachimura, even with his head tilted back. So, I don't know. To me, this image looks like he's clearly 2 inches taller. Again, you look at the first image, and they look like they are roughly the same height. But again, Jarred Vanderbilt being in front of Rui slightly, you're going to have that kind of distortion. But with them standing side by side, literally side by side, and on a more close-up, Jarred Vanderbilt looks at least 2 inches taller than Rui Hachimura. And if Rui Hachimura is 6'8", that would make Jarred Vanderbilt 6'10", right? Even if he's 6'9", right? Like, that's still just long, lengthy. He already has a 7-foot wingspan. So this guy was already a lockdown defensive player. Now, imagine how much more he could be if he really is like 6'10" now. And now he could even guard if you had to. I still wouldn't necessarily want to, but if for whatever reason he ends up getting switched on a center, he can. I still wouldn't necessarily want him to guard the Jokic's of the world just because they can back him down and body him up. There's just too much weight behind them. But, if you get on an island with, like, I don't know, a Triple J, right? I think Jarred Vanderbilt, if he's 6'10", can guard him now, right? He can switch up and make things difficult and kind of hold his own. A Bam Adebayo, right? He could switch on Bam and actually make things difficult, make things challenging. Those type of centers that we have in this league that aren't necessarily like the huge, big, back to the basket, kind of just back you down type centers, right? Like I still wouldn't want him guarding even like a Valanciunas, right? I think with his length, he can make things difficult, but it's just the size and the strength is the thing. But Jarred Vanderbilt, man, telling you, he's coming. The guy is coming. And he is, if he just, I really just want to see him have just a reasonable three-point shot. I really do, because that's like the one thing in his arsenal he doesn't have. He is arguably a top 5 defensive player, like one-on-one perimeter defender. He just lacks the offensive skill set. Like the 3 major things that I really hope Jarred Vanderbilt's working on, which I imagine he is obviously the shooting, right? I want him to work on his hands because that was another real issue that he had last season, which is something you can work on, right? You work on your coordination and stuff, because how many times did Jarred Vanderbilt just make a nice cut to the basket, got fed the ball, and either fumbled the ball or he just didn't really gather it and tried to go up and got blocked by the rim or just, botched the layup or whatever, right? If he could work on his hands, that would be huge for his offensive game, because a lot of times players will sag off of him. And here's the thing. Even if he's shooting, let's say he shoots 35%, right? Which is, again, league average. That would be much better than last year where he was shooting like 30%. So teams would still, especially in the playoffs, are still going to sag off of him just because, again, put yourself in their shoes. You have D'Angelo Russell, who's 40%. You got Austin Reeves, who's 40%. You got Anthony Davis, who he's going to be a problem in the paint. You're probably going to have to double team. And then LeBron James is LeBron James. So teams will probably still sag off of Jarred Vanderbilt, even if he's 35%, because they'll be looking at it as like, we'd rather leave the guy in the corner that's, 24, that's 35% from 3 open, rather than one of D'Lo or Reeves gets open and they're knocking it down at a 40% clip, right? So what that means is what we saw last year, where teams and players end up sagging off of Vando. They forget about him for a second, and he's quick enough to just, boom, explode by. There's the ball, boom, finish and get the layup. So I'm hoping he's working on his hands. That's kind of the second thing that I really want him to do. And then the third is just his handles, right? Because, one, we saw him go coast to coast on a few occasions, but it's rare. He just doesn't look very comfortable in that spot, right? If he can get the rebound and kind of slow it up, right? And kind of jog up with no just defensive point of attack, then he's fine. But I'd like to see him be able to get the ball off the rebound, off the glass, and just take it from one side to the other comfortably, right? Especially if he can kind of, learn how to dish and just get the court vision. That would be fantastic. But, that is something one step at a time, right? At least if he has the handles, what you can also do is you can just dump him the ball and let him beat his defender off the dribble. If he is 6'10", right, he can use his length and his quickness to just blow by and have the handles to comfortably get there. That would be fantastic, right? So those are the things that I'm kind of hoping for. And then if he can just get over time, get the vision, then you're talking about like a better defensive Lamar Odom, right? Like Lamar Odom did all those things. Now, maybe he'll never be as good and polarizing as Lamar Odom, but hey, if he can be the elite level defensive guy that he is, and then have some type of court vision to where he can make plays for others and be comfortable dribbling the ball and kind of not necessarily be a full point forward, but again, just be comfortable enough to handle the ball. And if the ball ends up finding him, he can take the shot, beat the guy off the dribble, or find a cutter and just dish him the ball. Those kind of things would be really nice. And I'm hoping within the next year or two or so that becomes a real thing. But also, he's in a contract year. So it's in his best interest to not only for the Lakers' sake, but for him and to get a better contract. If he develops a quality three-point shot, you're talking about the difference of him making an extra probably $20 million, right? Because right now he probably gets 4 years, $40 million, 4 years, $48 million, somewhere in that ballpark. He's probably 12, maybe at most the Lakers would give him $15 million just to like not lose him, right? But if he's a guy that develops a real three-point shot, then he's probably looking at like 4 years, 60, 4 years, maybe closer to 70 million, something like that, right? At worst, he would probably get an Austin Reeves contract of like 4 years, 56 million, where right now, like I said, he's probably 10 million, 10 to 12 million, just because the demand for the type of player Vanderbilt is, you're probably going to have to overpay slightly, and his elite level of defense is gonna by itself is going to earn him some level of a payday. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Was that proof enough for you? Do you still want to kind of wait and see him on the court? Have a feel whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it, so let me know down